Following a big story from Washington, D.C. this morning, there was a big blow over the weekend for President Biden's Build Back Better plan.
Yeah, they thought they had it in the bag after months of negotiations, but in the end, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says he just cannot support it. He made that announcement over the weekend, and KRON4's D.C. correspondent Jesse Tenor has more on what happened.
Manchin's blow to the president's agenda comes after months of negotiations, taking many in his own party by surprise.
I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't.
And just like that, President Biden's social spending and climate plan appears to have died in the Senate.
This is a no on this legislation. I have tried everything I know to do.
West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has long been the key holdout on the $2 trillion bill and said on Fox News Sunday it's still too expensive and too broad.
Not changing our approach, not targeting things we should be doing, making sure that people basically that truly need it are getting it.
Manchin said Congress should instead focus on rising inflation and COVID.
There's a lot of good, but that bill is a mammoth piece of legislation.
Manchin's pronouncement seemed to take the White House by surprise. Press Secretary Jen Psaki called his decision a, quote, sudden and inexplicable reversal in his position and a breach of his commitments to the president and congressional Democrats. Earlier this week, President Biden had agreed to back off a Christmas deadline to vote on the bill to continue negotiations with Manchin.
Let him vote no in front of the whole world.
On CNN's State of the Union, a visibly angry Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders accused Manchin of caving to pressure from the energy industry and others.
Let Mr. Manchin explain to the people of West Virginia why he doesn't have the guts to stand up to powerful special interests.
The White House left open the possibility of further negotiations with Manchin. Senators come back to work January 3rd. Now, Democrats could pivot here and try to pass some parts of the plan as standalone bills, or they could turn their attention to another looming priority ahead of the 2022 midterms, voting rights legislation. In Washington, I'm Jesse Tenor.
All right, well, to talk more about the fate of the president's Build Back Better plan and more headlines from Capitol Hill, we're joined by KRON4 political analyst Michael Yaki. And Michael, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, this kind of came out of left field for a lot of lawmakers.
This is the kind of situation where you start thinking of Joe Manchin as the Grinch who stole Christmas. And certainly for the Democrats, that's exactly what they think of in terms of whether his heart is two sizes too small. You can tell by the reaction of the White House. In fact, behind the scenes, Manchin didn't even bother calling the president. He sent an aide to the White House to just let him know, I'm going to go on Fox News and say no. Not even the courtesy of a phone call. When they tried to call him back, I mean senior aides in the White House, they were met with basically, no, sorry, call back later.
Clearly a bit of whiplash because it had seemed like they were getting to some sort of agreement there.
Right.
I was never really sure if they were really going to get an agreement, certainly not the $2.2 trillion that they were looking at. He had continually made throughout the entire time the idea that this was too big and too much. And notice what he said in the Fox News interview. There is some good in there. So the question is whether or not they're going to take something, for example, the child care tax credit, probably the single most effective anti-poverty device for children in this country, for families and children in this country, expires at the end of this year. And that was going to be in Build Back Better. Are they going to try and at least take that out and maybe a couple more things? Even Speaker Pelosi early on had said, maybe we should do fewer things bigger rather than try and push everything in there, which is what they try to do, and then through legislative mechanics, come up with the same number. But I have a feeling that there's still a deal to be made, but we won't see it until the new year, and it certainly is not going to be a very good Christmas for the Bidens or for the progressives in Congress right now.
Well, we did hear from Schumer that he will probably hold a vote on this in January. Is there time then, do you think, to cobble something together? Can it still be saved? Or, like you said, is this just going to be broken up now and offered up in separate legislation?
Well, it's not even sure whether or not he would vote for it in separate legislation. I mean, that's the whole point. The idea of a big bill is that you put in stuff that some people like, some people don't like, some people like that, and some people like other parts, and you kind of deal with the possibility that on standalone bills, certain things could die, and you put them all together to make them all go at the same rate. So I think they still want to do that. I think the child care tax credit is going to be number one in that. I still think there are some issues regarding taxes on corporations that could do it. There's still some pay-fors, which is congressional speak for making sure that you actually pay for what it is you're spending, that can be negotiated. But right now, Build Back Better as it is, with all the different aspects of it, including the climate change and other parts, is dead. And they're going to have to essentially figure out what will Build Back Better, the smaller bill, be if they're going to get something done in January.
A lot of brainstorming that's going to need to be done there. Michael, before we let you go, we do want to, I know that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's set to speak in San Francisco in a couple of hours here, but we're also hearing that she might be actually seeking re-election.
Yeah, there's a report out that she was going to do it, and from those reports, there certainly wasn't any pushback from anyone in the camp. I think that's probably the right thing to do. You've seen retirements like Jackie Spear and others, but I think that her leaving would not be a good. No matter what happens in the midterm elections in 2022, taking her out of that equation now, from her point of view, would not be a great thing. So it's a good thing for San Francisco. I'm really happy that she's continuing on, and she's certainly proved that she is still the most effective speaker in the history of the United States.
And turning 82 in March, let's not forget, and still wields quite a bit of power there in Washington.
If I'm like that at 82, 82 is like the new 62, especially when it comes to Nancy Pelosi. So people underestimate her to their detriment every year. She's going to be fine. Age is not just a number for her.
Not hanging it up just yet. All right, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.